All right. For Nigerian students that wait for the loan scheme of the federal government may soon be over. The federal government said that January commencement date of the student loan scheme with plans for the timely access to the credit facility within 30 days is still intact. The Minister of State for Education, Yusuf Sununu, explained that the website is almost done and the funds have been made available in the 2024 budget and the supplementary budget for 2023. This is a good development.
Yes, it is, and it's contained in the president's promise made to Nigerians while he was campaigning. And in October last year, he also promised that the scheme would take off in January this year. So it's 2 weeks to the end of January. It's just a little less than 2 weeks to the end of January. But Nigerians are already apprehensive as to whether that promise of kicking it off in January will be met. But the minister, who was also on Politics Tonight last week, is confident that the January date will be met. In any case, even if it's slightly delayed, the fact is this is a good initiative meant to ensure that every young Nigerian has access to higher education, no matter how poor your parents are. I've heard that students of private universities are pleading now that they want to be captured in the scheme. I do not think that government needs to listen to that. It is already stated that for you to benefit from this scheme, you have to be resident in Nigeria and you have to be a student of a public university. This effort by private universities to have their students benefit from this scheme should be resisted. The same private universities who get students to pay as much as 2 million for a session, or even more, depending on the course, are also pleading that the Third Fund Act should be amended so that they can also benefit from Third Fund, so that their lecturers can benefit by way of a grant for research, so that they too can benefit by way of infrastructure renewal, which Third Fund has been providing the public universities. I don't think that the Third Fund Act should be amended to accommodate private universities, because they are in need simply for the money, and they get their students to pay so much money. So why do they need federal support again? I don't think that this makes sense. So I am happy that we are getting there. As I've said before on this program, many of the prominent people in the Southwest today would not have had the privilege of good education if not for Awolowo's free education program. Many of them could never have gone to school. You know, Awo was empathetic. He knew that so many people won't be able to benefit from education if he didn't institute free education, and he did it. So I believe that just as we have it in the US, where people are advanced loans with a very flexible repayment plan, this student loan would help ensure that poor indigent students can access funding that will enable them to pay their school fees. But it should also not be an excuse for the federal government to commercialize education at tertiary level. We don't want to see that. Government must still continue to fund education sufficiently. Since this budget, this has been inserted into it's in the 2024 budget, so I see nothing stopping it from taking off anytime soon.
This must not be difficult.
Yeah.
It must be accessible. And, if it's not accessible, the purpose will be defeated.
Yeah.
And the government should ensure that how this loan will be paid back.
Yeah.
Because so many other projects of government in time past, people will access it and refund becomes difficult.
Yeah. I think education is the greatest source of wealth. That's why you find out that the most developed countries, they have a very high literacy rate. In Nigeria, today we are talking about between 62 to 68% of literacy rate. But that is even maybe when we are talking about Southeast and Southwest. If we take it on the average, or the national average, I believe it's far, far lower than that. Education is the best way to gain knowledge. It is the best way to discover hidden talents. And it is the best way to train a man to acquire critical thinking. And to build the resource base of your country, you need education. So there's no amount that is too much for us to invest in education. We are investing in our future. We are preventing terrorism. We are building growth and development. And we are laying the basis for qualitative livelihood. So I think if there is anything this government has done since coming to power these few months, this is one of the most important steps that the government has taken. If you look at the number of people that enroll for JAMB every year, sometimes 1.8 to 2 million. But after 4 years, 5 years, we have just about 600,000, graduates every year. That means that a lot of these people, along the way, they drop, in the contest, in the race for education. And if you look at the number of people that go to secondary schools that graduate, we have maybe some 27,000 secondary schools in Nigeria. And if you look at the number of people in these schools, there are millions, but only few manage to even get to university education. And the major problem is poverty. And for the fact that a man is poor does not mean that he has no talent. There are people that are from very poor homes who are professors, who are great men. People like Awolowo, he wasn't from a rich home. He was from a very poor home, and he lost his father at a very tender age. And there are so many best men all over the world today that grew up from a very poor family. So this loan, I think, is one of the best ways to bring in, to include people that are poor, but also have hidden talents. We only hope that it's not going to be politicized. It's going to be decentralized. We must ensure that it's not concentrated in one part of the country. It must get to everywhere, the 7 for local government. Because every local government, there are poor people. And most of these poor people live in rural areas. So, and some of them don't even have access to internet. I understand the website will soon be completed, and then people can apply for the loan. But it should not be limited to internet alone. My own community, from my mother's side and from my father's side, there's nothing like access to internet. And I know there are many communities like that all over the country, in the north, in the east. So we must design a mechanism that will ensure that the poorest of the poor, also have access to, to this loan. But I think it's a very great development, and it should be commended. As we speak now, we have about 20 million Nigerians that are out of school. So if we really want to talk about development, building growth, and sustainable economic, political advancement, funding education is one of the critical interventions we expect government to.
What is it? The poorest of the poor to get access to this?
Yes, but not just that. I think beyond that, they should look at what the late Professor Jelili Omotola did in UNILAG, where he provided opportunities for students to work, a work study scheme, such that,
I was in UNILAG then.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yes. So you can even talk more about it.
After your
Yes.
this the lecture,
I was in the US.
go to the library, go to
yes. I saw it, in an American university whereby, the university allowed various businesses to set up, hotel. The hotel where we stayed was being managed by students. There were different, even the filling.
You had like venture.
Even a filling station,
making bread,
different businesses.
Water.
So students were allowed to work in those places. So their lectures were structured in such a way that they had enough time to go and work in those places. And don't forget, those businesses were tenants to the university. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. So I think beyond just giving student loans, I think we should look at that work studies. Very, very important. There are so many areas where we have under-capacity utilization in Nigeria. Especially, for instance, agro-processing. You have a lot of young people who will fit into agro-processing ventures. So if you structure their lectures in such a way that they have free time to work in different places, government can actually even go into partnerships with companies that can say, okay, fine, we'll take on students, in order to help them also to pay back their loans. We'll take them in, get them employed in different areas, and so that part of what they are earning will go to repaying these loans. So it shouldn't be just something that we give to students and we just wait there, just be piling up until they start working. Then they have to now spend the better part or all of their productive lives paying back. I think it should be a situation where even the students themselves, the beneficiaries, are taught to be responsible. So this is not free money. This is money like somebody taking money to start a business. There are students who are actually entrepreneurial. Yeah. So if you encourage them, I think government should expand this. No, it should not just be student loan, go and pay your school fees. There are students who are entrepreneurial. If getting these loans can actually also help them to boost their businesses, to boost their entrepreneurial endeavors, I think nothing should be left off the table. Different options should be brought into the student loan, such that the end result is that everybody, every Nigerian who is willing, government is ready to encourage you to succeed. I think that should be the goal. Yeah. So even the local government, the form should be available at the local governments. It should not be an internet thing. Because what about those in rural areas, those in remote areas? The form should be available at the local government. And then they can get these things processed and sent to wherever is being processed. But I think even the states, the federal government should get the buy-in of the states and the local government, because that's even in those places you have more poverty. More poverty. Those ones should also show interest in making sure that 20 million Nigerians are out of school. How many can we get into school and get productive in the next 3 to 4 years? That should be our goal.
Julie, how accessible would this scheme be?
Well, we wait to see. Government has designated a bank to handle this, and all they are trying to do is make it as transparent as possible. If we do not do that, you will find that those who deserve to access the funds the most are the ones who will not be able to lay their hands on the money. So government has to sit down and really think through this policy very well in a manner that will make it transparent, in a manner that will make it accessible to the people who need it the most. If that is not done, and it gets handled the way government comes up with intervention funds for various sectors of the economy, and the people do not deserve to access the intervention funds, are the people who lay their hands on it. If we handle this in that manner, it will be a failure. But we've seen people like Barrister Womolo, who said that when he was growing up, this sort of fund was made available, which enabled him to pay his way through university. invariably the scheme was stopped. We don't want this one to end up like that. So steps must be taken to ensure that this assumes a permanent life, not like the scheme that the great lawyer Awomolo was talking about. But he supports it because he too was able to benefit, and he wants Nigerians who need this, the poor students who need this, to be able to benefit. So government has a big job on its hands to ensure that a lofty idea is not hijacked and people don't have to bribe their way to be able to access these funds. I know some Nigerians will be sitting down there thinking of how they can make money out of this. But may God frustrate the plans of such people.
So I think what Babajide has said in terms of, it's also our responsibility as journalists to monitor, the implementation, because there are good policies like the humanitarian ministry, very good policy, but when it comes to implementation, people begin to politicize it. But I think that is a very important aspect of that project, transnational education. The Minister of Education is saying that universities abroad who take Nigerian students, that they should come and set up campuses in Nigeria, with the same quality of education. If they can implement that, I think that is fantastic. Bringing these schools to come and set up their campuses here with the same education. So instead of going to London, it's going to save us a lot of foreign exchange. If, for instance, we have Yale University setting up a campus in Nigeria, instead of people going to Oxford University. So the minister said it, Minister of State said it, and said it's a component part of this project. If they can do that, I think that is a very great achievement. And I also think that what the federal government has done, the federal government is a very good project, but states can also emulate the federal government. For instance, our states give what they call bursary. Many states don't give, but some states do it. But it's different. It means
to give that
Lagos state government can also set up, in its parliamentary sessions, set up maybe about 200 million naira for individuals of the state who are poor, want to go to school, but they don't have access. Other states can do this. Even local governments, if it's just 2 million naira, you can emulate what the federal government is doing. So at the end of the day, it's not just that we are expecting federal government money. States can also do the same thing, no matter how little it is. It's a very good standard the federal government has set, for us to learn from, and also to see how states can also implement the same project at a micro level.
What are your final take on this?
Yeah, so it's very interesting and it's good. You find there are private individuals who are giving scholarships here and there. But the universities also, the tertiary institutions, let me just quickly say this, should also be creative. You don't just sit back and be waiting for endowments. Go out and look for endowments. Go out and look for, philanthropists who will support initiatives in your institutions. You don't just sit back, wait for federal government allocation, wait for students to pay school fees, and that's the end of it. The vice chancellor should move about. They should attract goodwill to the schools. And these things will also aid this loan initiative. Then there will be different options. Then it will be better for us.
Like one man from outside the country that actually gave University of Ibadan, the department, $1 million.
Yeah.
Look at Chief. Look at Chief Abeba.
Even the Juma Foundation.
Yes. Look at various. Even Rabiu Bua and the rest of them. What they've been doing, get more people like that within Nigeria and abroad to pump money into education.
Yeah. The universities are research centers. Yes. They need to work with corporate organizations, to be able to create and invent certain equipment to be commercialized where they are going to make their money. And this project, it's not federal government project alone. They must work with state ministries, so that the federal government cannot just sit down in Abuja and determine who will have this project in Imo State or Anambra or in Bron. They need to work with states who will guide them on how to go about the project, since they don't have offices in all the 36 of the federation.
All right. Festering insecurity in Nigeria has put the country